Dear colleagues, dear participants, dear organizers, thank you very much for this kind introduction, and thank you very much for your kind invitation to contribute to your very interesting and very important research colloquium. I'm greeting you from Sweden. I will by that share my screen. So I have been asked to talk about blended learning, state of the nation, Icde Insights. Icde is the International Council for Open and Distance Education, where I'm a board member and also chairing the OER Advocacy Committee. On behalf of Icde, I did the research on blended learning, and I will share some of the insights. Talking about blended learning and education as such, it is important to always have the SDGs in mind. And as we know, we have the SDG 4, a specific dedicated to education. And that was also the background for my research report. And we also know that the SDG 4 has an impact and influences and will lead to achieving all the other ones. And during the pandemic, SDG 3 has been also very important for education because it is about health and well-being. UNESCO also launched, after my research, indeed, the Futures of Education, Learning to Become, a global initiative to reimagine how knowledge and learning can shape the future of humanity and the planet. And I will argue that both those initiatives by UNESCO is important when we talk about blended learning of today and for tomorrow. We also need, of course, to have the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact and effects in mind when we talk about blended learning of today. And also the initiative by OECD about the education for 2030, as well as the fourth industrial revolution, which was ordered in 2016. And I also argued about that in the report, because the fourth industrial revolution will change the way we learn, the way we perform, the way we communicate, the way we relate, the way we work, and the way we live our lives of today. There are also some reports which used to come annually, and that was, of course, also backgrounds for my report about the Horizon report, about mobile learning, seamless learning, ubiquitous learning, and universal design, and of course the report from Open University in UK. They come every year, so I will share some of the new ones later in my presentation. But really, we need to have the background and the impact and the effects of COVID-19, which affected the whole world, which we can see on the map and which we all have been part of. Blended learning is generally defined as a blend with using both online and in-person experiences when teaching students. And online and in-person learning will be in parallel and complement one each other. Blended learning is also called hybrid learning or flipped learning or mixed mode learning. And the experiences may vary widely in design and execution from place to place and country to country, and also by time and culture and context. So that is very important to bear in mind, that we need to have the culture and the context. Blended learning, there are numerous definitions, and during the last 20 years, we have seen a range of them. But most of all, blended learning is part of the innovative transformation of education in the 21st century. It embraces personal learning and quality personal learning. Commonwealth of Learning and UNESCO, they argue that by blended learning, students will be part of a global digital society and be prepared to be global active citizens. The blended learning models require changes in the roles of both the teachers and the learners. And these changes are accompanied by shifts in ownership and empowerment, where learners become prosumers, collaborators, and orchestra their own learning regarding time, place, path, settings, and pace. So the most visible and the most benefits, which has an impact of blended learning, is that there are opportunities for collaboration it increased flexibility, it increased interaction, it enhanced learning, and as I said, learning to be virtual citizens. Blended learning is about a mix, a blend with classroom or brick and mortar models and online learning. And you have the whole continuum during this ways, either more brick and mortar or more online or more in the middle. Another model of blended learning, which I expressed in my report, is this one, which those component about virtual learning platforms, inquire project-based learning, tech integration, global connection, game-based learning, direct instruction, peer-to-peer coaching, and focus on mastery. I also argued about equality in blended learning. For example, with this model, which take an holistic approach and see the ecosystem. And you need to do that when you talk about quality in not at least blended learning. And that is about mindsets, qualities, and skills. This one is about INOACOL, Information Association for K-12 Online Learning. And what is very much emphasized is about the mindsets, the approach, the attitudes, the values which education and learning are based on, and also how we communicate and relate and perform. And it is about orientation toward change and improvement. Blended learning requires an open pedagogy approach, like, for example, this one from Hegarty, the 8 attributes of open pedagogy. And that is about participatory technologies, people, openness and trust, innovation and creativity, sharing ideas and resources, connected community, learner-generated, reflective practice, and peer review. You see peer review come back here as well. With blended learning, it is important how the design for open communication are made and what kind of approach you have for that. It is about design for critical reflection and discussions. It is about create and sustain a sense of community among the learners, to support purposeful inquiries, to ensure students sustain collaboration, to ensure the inquiries moves to resolutions, and also to ensure that assessments are consequent with learning outcomes. And I will argue, and I've argued in the report as well, that as long as we don't change the assessment procedures and structures, nothing will help, although we maybe call it blended learning, because it is a different approach, as it is more student orientated. So applying and implementing blended learning, it's important how you design the course and the course the curricula, the learning outcomes and the assessment, how you create and sustain, how you support both the students and the staff, how you ensure a lot of different kind of dimensions and issues. In the report, I also argued for how to use and involve social media and technical digital dimensions within the curriculum, within the course. For example, this one, the pedagogy wheel by Alan, and that includes both Bloom's taxonomy, and is based on the Bloom's taxonomy for digital environments, but also the summer model. Is it really about transformation, or is it just about substitute? This one is also based about activities, how you can approach and how you can stimulate the different aspects within the Bloom's taxonomy, for example, about remembering or about creation. And also what kind of tools. Remember that those are the tools maybe is used today. There will be other tomorrows. It is translated into 25 languages, so it's easy for you to use. I also argue for the reports which used to have a trend and see the challenges for the future in education. For example, the EDUCAUSE Horizon report. Now there has come another one for 2021 And even that one stressed about blended learning and hybrid course models. And as you can see, also about artificial intelligence, learning analytics, micro-credentials, OER, and quality. Another one is about innovative pedagogy. This also is published annually, and this one for 2021. They emphasize those 10 dimensions in learning for today and for tomorrow as best learning moments, for example, about gratitude as a pedagogy, and that is about healthcare and well-being. We will not just go in detail about those, but those are the ones for 2021 and for the coming years. In the report, I looked at the UNESCO Bangkok and Education of Hong Kong report and their views about successful implementation of blended learning. And they stress that learning inputs and processes and assessments to measure overall personal development is very crucial to succeed in implementing blended learning strategies. And it's needed to have a holistic approach. To succeed, it is needed also with well-supported faculty, dynamic learning environments, and with an institutional leadership. Leadership is crucial at all levels, micro, meso, and macro level. And leaders who have courage enough for a change towards blended learning and for a change towards digital transformation. Some of the recommendations in this research report are those, and they're listed, maybe not in order, but at the very first one is about success is always based on people and how you invest in people and their resources, because people is the most valuable resource one have, not at least when it comes to education. It is about capacity building. It is about incentives. It is about trust. It is about involvement, engagement, and also to promote the ownership of learning for the learners. And as I was stressing, to include and collaborate with the learners, see this as them as collaborators, not they and we. But we are working together and they have the ownership of their own learning. To ensure that strategies, funding, and visions can become in place and implement a culture of smart learning. The culture is very important for a change, and how to implement a culture of blended learning within an organization, within an institution, among the people involved. To apply quality models, for example, this one I mentioned about InnovaCall, to facilitate and support capacity building, to cultivate a culture and see the ecosystem within blended learning and all stakeholders involved, and all stakeholders at micro, meso, and macro level. To ensure leadership with encouragement and with courage, and of course to conduct a research and to apply research results. When this report was launched, I also wrote a blog post, and maybe that one can summarize my message. So the key message is about the blended learning ecosystem, and blended learning involve the learners, and with blended learning, the learners can take control and orchestrate their own learning pathways. So by that, I will end my presentation, and thank you very much. I'm looking very much forward to further dialogue with you. Thank you.